Hey everyone, welcome to 21st Century HR Podcast. I'm your host, Lars Schmidt, and today we're going to talk about a event that I recently attended in Nashville called WorkHuman. So if you're not familiar with WorkHuman, it's really a user conference from a company formerly known as Globoforce, now known as WorkHuman. And this was their fifth event. And this was an event that I've been kind of tracking for the last couple of years. A good friend of mine, Lori Rudiman, has been involved with them since the early days of the event. And I think a couple things stood out to me. In the past years, they've had incredible keynotes from Michelle Obama to Amal to so many other leading people. They get a lot of headlines and get a lot of attention. And most events, they'll have one or two kind of really big name headliners. And then lots of other, compelling sessions and breakout sessions. And so, they kind of got my attention with the headliners. I'm like, who is this company that's bringing these people in? But then as I followed some of the tweets and some of the conversation on social media, there really seemed to be a bit of a different vibe with this event. And so I wanted to see it firsthand. So I attended earlier this week in Nashville, and it really lived up to those expectations. When you get there, you walk into the expo center, and they have all kinds of different booths set up, product demos obviously because it's a product event. But when you walk through, some of the things that stood out to me were things like a gratitude bar, and it's funny. I go to a lot of these events, and you have kind of a usual suspects of people that will typically go to these kind of types of conferences, and you have lots of people that are practitioners that'll be there as well. And so the vibe is very different for all of them. But I think here, the opening keynote started with a welcome humans. And you may hear that and you may think, okay, so yeah, we're all humans. What is the play here? But I think that theme, it's not a token theme. It's something that was really reinforced through the programming of the entire event. And from an attendee perspective, especially as a first-time attendee, I was really struck by how proactively welcoming everybody was at the conference. Every time I sat down for a meal or sat down next to strangers, they quickly worked to make sure we didn't stay strangers for long. It was introductions. It was, what are you working on? Where are you based? What are you attending next? And there was just this real kind of connection between attendees that I think is pretty rare in events like this. When you have an event with 3,500 people, it's really hard to kind of get outside of, maybe the people you came with or people that that are going to be there and meet new people. And this wasn't the case at this event. The opening keynotes from, Gary Hamel had some really insightful and actionable ideas around removing bureaucracy from organizations, to the closing day one keynote with George Clooney, who is shockingly charming in real person. I shouldn't say shockingly. It's probably, obvious you'd expect that, but just so relatable. And had a really, I think a lot of people, you might see somebody like George Clooney and you think, what is he going to be doing at an HR conference? But the insights that he shared around some of his humanitarian work and why he got involved in some of his initiatives and really just some of the things that are kind of, tearing at the fabric of our country, but really at a global scale right now, and kind of reasons that he's optimistic, I think was a great takeaway for a lot of the attendees. And really kind of starting local was another key takeaway. He said, we get kind of caught up on trying to develop macro issues to some of these big problems that are causing divisions certainly in our country, in the U.S. And his approach was start locally, start with your neighbors. Everything kind of starts at a local level and spreads from there. And I think that really resonated with the audience. But really, the rest of the sessions, from the breakout sessions, there was an incredible panel with modern CHROs talking about how social impact is affecting their organization. There was another great panel from D&I leaders from Target and Twitter and other organizations talking about really some important issues that are impacting the workplace. I think there was almost 1 million employees represented across the companies that were represented on the panel. And so it was definitely a unique event. If you're thinking about events coming, it's an annual event for them. So if you're thinking about events in 2020, I would definitely put this one on your radar. I think that there's lots of great takeaways from a learning and education standpoint, but also really that community standpoint, that building your network, being able to have real conversations, being able to to kind of connect with other, humans, and more specifically humans in HR that are dealing with the same kind of things that you are. I think that was a really valuable takeaway. And, this was my first WorkHuman. It definitely won't be my last. So I would highly recommend you check that out and add that to your event list of targets when you're making your plans for 2020. That's it for this episode. I'll be back more with a Fast Company episode that's coming up on a new piece that I'll be publishing later this month in the next series. Thanks.